Graham Keegan on a couple of weeks ago, and she is not a defender of bilingual education by any means. She doesn't think it works. Are you suggesting at all today that the figures or the way the Department of Education has put these figures out is to promote that position, to do away with it?
I definitely do believe that that is the case. I do not have much evidence to substantiate that except her historical position. And the other thing is that she uses the outrageous figure of $300 and some million being spent on bilingual education.
Now, a lot of that is donated, correct? A lot of this is funding that is infused from other sources, not tax money.
I doubt that very much is donated, but even that figure doesn't even come close to anything that school districts spend on these programs, and we will be able to show it. As I indicated, on Monday we will have a pretty comprehensive analysis of that report.
Margaret Dugan, the effort to put this on the ballot in November of 2000, you need 101,000 signatures by June?
Right, June, July, I believe.
You've already started collecting?
Yes, yes, we have.
How is it going so
It's
far,
going
and
great.
what are you finding out when you talk to people out there?
Well, everybody has a story. Everybody has a story of why they think this is the initiative we need to pass in Arizona. My phone, every night I come home from work, there's lots of messages for me to make, and I've talked to them. We are having a meeting Monday night. A lot of people have asked how can they help, so we're going to hold a general meeting and hand out some petitions to them, discuss the issue some more, and just a lot of support for us.
We're going to take a break here on Face the State, but when we come back, the question is, how do you go down this road without it turning into an exclusionary type of policy and where it becomes a very heated racial issue and racial divide in this state? We'll continue with the questions about bilingual education, its merits, and where it goes from here in this state when Face the State continues. Some of the many protests we're seeing here and in California where the move is on for English for the children, which would effectively do away with bilingual education, at least the mandatory component of it. Parents who wish to could still put their kids in bilingual education, but as a policy and an overall program, it would be done away with if this ends up on the ballot in November of 2000 and voters said yes to that. It's a question that many are asking now as they look at the money that's been spent on bilingual education. Let's turn to Senator Lopez again. You're fighting to save it.
I am. And I'm doing it because the science and the data that we have gathered indicates that it is one of the better programs to reduce dropout rate, to increase the academic achievement of our students. And I think that it's a very needed component of our public education system.
But again, when this report comes out from the Department of Education saying only 4% of students are assimilating and making it work, you'd say the program on the face of it's a failure.
And I will agree to that. And that is why I have submitted a piece of legislation to reform bilingual education. There's no arguing, and I sympathize with some of the parents that are supporting the initiative because I know the frustrations that they go through. But the Department of Education's own report indicates that 3,000 teachers that are now teaching bilingual education programs do not have the credentials to do so. How much would a student gain if you had an English teacher teaching math, for example? There are many things wrong with the programs. They are not the proper programs, and what we've got to do is not get rid of it. The science, as I indicated earlier, shows that it works. If properly implemented, we could have a good program. Senator
Lopez, we look for models when we have questions about how programs work. Where is it working well?
We have some very good programs. Creighton, we have very good programs in Avondale, very good programs in Isaac School District. We have some in Tucson Unified, some in Nogales. They're all over this state. They are not to the extent that we would like to see them, but that doesn't mean that you throw them out. You keep them and you try to improve them, and that is what our piece of legislation tries to do.
Margaret Dugan is a principal at Glendale High. You've seen this. Is there some middle ground here? What Senator Lopez suggests?
To me, the bilingual education, the way it's been implemented, And there are many, many different ways that it can be implemented. That's probably one of the biggest problems. For 20 bilingual ed teachers, there are 20 different pedagogical practices out there. I believe that if our state is asking for our students to take assessments, and that is the proof in the pudding of whether or not you're successful in high school, and now we have our Ames requirements, we are going to segregate our educational system with bilingual education.
And we continue to talk about Hispanic students, but the fact is, when you're talking bilingual education, you've got Cambodian, Vietnamese, you've got students from all over the world, and you've got languages that have to be juggled now in the classroom.
The problem is
ad infinitum.
Bilingual education really only refers to Hispanics, because most of the other nationalities, non-native speakers, such as Cambodian, Vietnamese, they ask for English only. They want to just speak in the English language. They are learning their languages at home with their parents, and sometimes on weekends where they can continue their language or their culture. But when they come to the system, into a public school system, they want to be mainstream as quickly as possible, so therefore they're not put in a bilingual ed class. They do not want to learn Spanish, they want to learn English.
And even if they, I'm hearing you saying, even if they may lag behind initially in learning math,
right,
learning some other things because of the language barrier, that eventually in the long haul, they're better off learning English and kind of shock therapy, I would almost put it. Get them in there and teach them English.
That's what my experience has been. As an ex-ESL teacher, I did teach English to non-native speakers. They do get mainstreamed in. Yes, they carry around their dictionaries, they study, they do their work, they become productive, in fact, honor students at most schools.
Senator Lopez,
the data does not indicate that that is true. Look, we are talking about bilingual education, but if you just forget about bilingual education and you look at the condition of education for Mexican-American students, 50 to 60% of them today that are starting kindergarten are dropping out of high school, never complete high school. Of those, another 20% probably are not getting an adequate education to compete successfully in institutions of higher learning. It is a dismal condition that we have today. Bilingual education doesn't contribute to that. It is those programs that we have that are not implemented correctly, or where they are not in any program, that we are experiencing this great failure. I have indicated that all over this world, people are learning two or three languages without any problem.
You're suggesting not only keeping bilingual education, reforming it, but spending more money on it.
Actually, it is much cheaper to have a good bilingual program than it is to have an ESL program. Because in an ESL program, you pull the students out to teach English.
What does it stand for, ESL?
English as a second language.
Okay.